Hi, I'm Joe Finsternis, and 2015 is going to be like the biggest year for movie sequels. I mean, holy shit, they're coming out with a new Avengers movie, a new Terminator, a new Jurassic Park, a new freaking Star Wars, and yeah, they're also coming out with a new Fast and Furious, which I know some of you are excited for. And to top it off, they're coming out with a new Mad Max movie, which is the only franchise out of the ones I just listed from which I had never seen any of the original films. But when I saw the trailer for Fury Road, it got me just as excited as, the trailers for the other movies, at least, well, pretty much all of them had me more excited than the new Terminator movie. That one's kind of take it or leave it for me. But yeah, I mean, it just looks like it's going to be really wild and over the top and just a lot of fun. So I decided to go ahead and sit down and check out the original trilogy. And no, I haven't watched Beyond Thunderdome yet, but I heard that was kind of the sloppiest of the first three. And whenever I review a film on this channel, it's usually one that I think at least has the potential to be really good, which is why I choose them to talk about in the first place. But yeah, if you want to see me review Beyond Thunderdome, though, just let me know in the comments, and you'll likely see me talk about it at some point. I'm good for taking requests. Anyway, moving on to the first Mad Max. Now, going into this film, I heard that, The Road Warrior, the second movie, was the only film in the series that was really worth watching. I heard that the original was pretty boring and kind of underwhelming. But I'm sort of a purist when it comes to a movie series. Even if I don't have to watch the original, I always want to, just so I can feel like I've gotten a complete story. So I sat down and watched the first one, and I really, really wanted to like it more than I ended up liking it. I'll start off with the positives. I mean, I know that the film was made on a shoestring budget, and I'm usually very forgiving of that, but I do like how they made the action scenes as quick-paced as possible. There wasn't really much padding around them. I like how they went over the top in some parts. Like, when a couple of bad guys were about to die, you could see their eyes popping out of their heads. I thought that was cool. And I like the bad guys in the movie, too. I thought that this crazy biker gang was what pretty much made the movie, but at the same time, there were so many parts where it was just trying to take its time to slow down and tell this character-based story, which would have been fine if it had been going for a more serious tone overall, but, when you pair that with the crazy, over-the-top villains and action sequences, it just doesn't really mesh together. It felt pretty uneven, and overall I just thought it was kind of a forgettable movie, and I thought that the low budget was sort of a hindrance, to be perfectly honest. So anyway, moving on to The Road Warrior. Right off the bat, I like the fact that you really don't have to see the first movie to watch this one. At the very beginning, it explains the sort of world that this film takes place in. It tells you all about Mad Max's backstory. It fills you in on everything, and then it goes straight into the action. And the action in this movie is a lot better. It never feels sloppy or clunky in any way. It's always very intense, and the action scenes actually go on a little longer in this movie. Also, despite the fact that this film is populated with more over-the-top characters, I like the fact that the action felt as grounded as possible. They really didn't use that many special effects in the film. The ones that I recall basically consist of makeup effects, but Like, there was this flying machine in the film, which I thought was some kind of special effect, and a very good one at that, but then I did some research before filming this review, and I found out that they actually built a real sort of gyrocopter was what they called it for the movie, so it kind of felt like Christopher Nolan's Batman or Dark Knight trilogy, where they tried to do as many things for real as possible. I also like the fact that this movie feels more like it takes place during a post-apocalyptic era. That's kind of the setting that all of these movies take place in. And, you know, with the first movie, this is something that I'm not really going to bitch about too much because, again, I know that they were working with a small budget, but watching the first Mad Max, it honestly felt like the end of the world had been pretty soft on the world. I mean, people were still fairly decent for the most part outside of this biker gang. They were still dressed in regular garments and were still acting, you know, fairly normal. And it just didn't feel like the sort of desolate wasteland that the filmmakers had been trying to go for. But with The Road Warrior, you can really tell that the world has just gone to shit. People are dressed in rags, and the ones that aren't dressed in rags are dressed in armor. People are more paranoid now. They're more stressed, just kind of trying to stay alive. There's one point where this guy is eating some leftover dog food out of a can after a dog has been slobbering all over it. I mean, if that's not desperation, then I don't know what is. Also, the bad guys in this movie, I thought that the first movie had some over-the-top villains, but this one pretty much takes the cake. I can't really go too much in depth about the villains in this movie. I'm just going to let you see for yourself, but they're all led by this guy who's called the Humongous, which pretty much is the best, most accurate way to describe his character. He's just this really huge, bulky dude wearing a hockey mask, and you never see his face in the movie, but you can tell from the skin that you see that he's pretty badly deformed. He's pretty much Jason Voorhees if Jason knew how to talk and knew how to use a gun instead of a machete. And this is really the only major makeup appliance that they use in the film from what I can recall. There's one point where he's got this guy in a headlock and you can see the veins on the back of his head sort of pulsating. I thought that that looked really cool. So, yeah, in the end, the first Mad Max movie doesn't come with a very enthusiastic recommendation unless you're a huge series purist like me and you have to see the first movie. You're going to see it anyway. There are definitely worse films that you can watch. It's not terrible. I just recommend that you go into it with your expectations set low. The Road Warrior comes very highly recommended. If you're interested in seeing this great, you know, post-apocalyptic action sci-fi movie, then The Road Warrior is one of the very best of its kind. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about the first two Mad Max movies. I hope y'all have a good one.